What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the GamerDad channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Questions about returning to the division sometimes will arise. The game is over 4 or 5 years old, and so you're going to see it. On Twitter the other day, one of my audience members even asked and said, hey, seeing the Division Day stream pretty much inspired me to re-download the Division 2 after a 3-year break. What are some good resources to get reacquainted with all of the gear, weapons, skills, etc.? Now, this is a very pertinent question that I've seen over time with people taking breaks from the game by and large. So I thought I'd use my test account, the one that the audience members years ago told me to start up and play only as a solo player, to go ahead and experiment and see exactly what solo players go through, or even players who don't necessarily, engage in a lot of the social side of the game. So this is one of my other offbeat accounts on PC, shade level 250, and I use it to do things like this. I talk about, builds, I talk about, realistic setups and all, and so on and so forth. And for those who have left the game or who had left the game a long time ago, when you're returning, your question is my build even going to be relevant? You see, the answer to that is simply yes. And shout out to my audience member that even asked that question, Rick Guerrero. I basically asked and said, what shade level were they in? Were they in shade level 1000? And they checked and they said they only got as far as shade level 229. Now, this particular character of mine is at shade level 250, not too far from 229. Yes, stronger in a sense, but hey, you can pretty much make up those, 20-something levels in no time if you're actually trying to level up your shade level. But I would not necessarily focus too much on my shade level. Instead, I'll focus on the nature of my build, because the shade level is something that comes up or continues to, follow you and give you the credits you need as you're continuing to level up. So in my build category, I have some builds that I always constantly run. I run a high damage red build that is made up of the OG items. So if you were in the shade level, category when you left, these items are still going to be as strong and as powerful. The one thing I have to say is, with the new brand sets and gear sets that have come in, some of them have come in to somewhat update the way some of the older brand sets worked in those categories, but they didn't necessarily bring too much to the table. Now, yes, we can argue that some of the setups allow for a little bit more tweak in variety, but you guys know the developers of Massive don't ever want you to be strong, so there's no need. So this character is so old, my skill build is even still centered around Murakami. That's how crazy it is, right? So I still have my Murakami loadout set up with skills and skill duration, and using a little bit of the Hana U just to be able to kind of complement things, and a little bit of the Wyvern. And so you can see how this setup is. So let's talk about this setup, because it's back there in the shade level early days, like, your first few dozen shade levels. So let's look at the Murakami. Basically gives you 20% skill duration, 20% repair skills, 10% skill damage. Now I'm using this because I want to leverage skill damage. I want to also maybe leverage a little bit of skill duration. You can use it as a healer build, but when you have a turret, your skills are basically going to continue to just stay much longer. They can be refreshed, and you can also play kind of a hybrid build where you heal. It used to be a decent build back in the day, and I use glass cannon to be able to deal a lot of damage on my chest piece, and I'm using Wyvern for the extra skill damage, and I'm also using tech support. Skill kills increase total skill damage by 25% for 20 seconds. Your talents are also, in my opinion, still just as good. Now, we have some perfect talents that have been added to the game and are being added, so those are things you're going to have to be looking out for to improve the builds you already have. But the truth is, Murakami is kind of outdated. Right now, the skill builds that are actually making, more headway in the brand set category are things like the Empress International brand set. In the skills side, in terms of the gear sets, you still have, some strong contenders, in the skill category, I already forgot the name. I use Eclipse basically to do my status effect skill. So Eclipse is still very relevant. There's the other one that actually continues to cool down your skills and reset your skills. I cannot remember the name off the top of my head. My brain is blanked out just right now. Someone's going to remember in the comment section. Just read. Oh, there it is. Freaking Hardwired. Like, golly, man, I forgot that. Hardwire is still just as relevant and just as strong over the course of the way the game has progressed. So that's, in my opinion, something that you have to pay very close attention. Hana U is also pretty good, but like I said, Empress International is kind of the updated version to bring for you those things like the skill build. Other items like your, Providence is still just as good. Providence never really changed much. That was wild. It just kind of stayed pretty strong all the way through. Yes, there are others that you can kind of use in terms of maybe building, say, the weapon damage builds that can give you good value for your buck, but you're going to see Providence still become or continue to remain a preferred source of providing red damage and crit chance and crit damage builds as well. In regard to things like, special, gloves and, knee pads, Contractor still rocks. If you're looking to build the red damage build, the knee pads, the Overlord knee pads that are named, called the Fox's Prayer knee pads, they still rock. So you are not necessarily missing anything much. The developers, for some weird reason, stayed very carefully to continue to keep some of the old gear still looking very good. Now, you may ask and say, well, do you even really play much on this account? And the truth of the matter is, I actually would do that from time to time. So this is the same character when I was shade level 246, probably a few months ago, because you are correct, I don't really play too much on it, but I do, once in a while, I'll fire it up to see, how things are going. And I think because of the question that I was asked, I actually went ahead and fired up this character and played a legendary mission with it, just to be able to see where I was. Now, I was running with people who had, 1,000 shade level and a person who had 71 shade level. And we were able to still do a good job with that one person using overcharge and me still using my, good old Eclipse protocol, burn them all build and, status effect build that I switch back and forth. I put a turret pretty much. And this is one of my favorite clips because in this part of the video clip, me and this agent were running into this one room both at the same time. And somebody called it out that we synced in our movement. Look at it. It's so cute. I'm being silly, but the build does work even at a lower shade level because it still harnesses a lot of those different aspects when it comes down to it. It still gets the job done. It could do more damage as my shade level goes up. I mean, it will certainly do more damage. It will certainly be more effective once my shade level goes up. Like if you look at, say, a similar build on my shade level 1000 character on PlayStation, that annihilates, in a sense. It does way more of a better job. Even with the expertise system, that even comes in and adds a little bit more pizzazz to the entire conversation. So these are things that I recommend that, you look at. I wouldn't worry too much about, what does my build now become? I wouldn't worry about where I need to go ahead and start. You can pick up right from where you left and continue to go from there. And your build is going to remain relevant, or has always remained relevant in a sense. You can update them, continue to optimize them, continue to go ahead and, do your expertise, donations and so on and so forth, in order for you to be getting the benefits of getting your proficiency for your builds, as high as possible. So I hope this helps for players that are returning back from a technical side who cross the shade level threshold, by the way, because, it could be that the person stopped at like a level 30. At that point, that's a whole different conversation. I say go to Warlords of New York, do up to level 40 and break into the shade level and just start doing missions and items. Another really cool thing is they've also gone back to revert the XP gains that you used to get from the resource convoys. They nerfed the XP gains and the community was not happy. I dropped the game once they did that nerf. I was like, we're not playing this stupid game, Massive, because, they come around and they do this stuff like there's no respect for our time. Some of us do play the game on multiple platforms and there's no cross save functionality. So what's the point in having to deal with that when I already have my shade level on one account? But I do like playing on multiple accounts. So that's actually a welcome reversion back to what, right now it can give you. And all you have to do just to make things work is to go into your global settings and, use your directives as you're comfortable with, depending on what build you're using, depending on how much stress you want to deal with, change the difficulty, and this will bump your XP gains. You can do control points at level 4. You can do control points, and get, new gear and so on and so forth, and just enjoy the process. I would not necessarily focus too much on the numbers. If you focus on the numbers in the division and if you focus on the specifics too much, it can get frustrating. You guys should already know this. All you have to do is find things in the game that you enjoy doing and do them. One reason it took me so long to get to the shade levels, a shade level 1000 is because I almost only like doing legendary missions. And they give XP, but they don't give as much XP. But I enjoy them, and so it didn't necessarily bother me. As long as I'm effective enough to continue to, play them and enjoy them, I kept doing that. And so that's how I've always enjoyed the division. That's how I've always vibed at the game, because the legendary missions are just, really cool in my opinion. And I continue to play them over and over again. So I hope this video helped. Thanks so much for watching. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.